Hello, I would like to wish everyone a very happy, blessed new year full of good health, prosperity, of course, love, and Jupiter in the sign of Aries almost demands that I also include perhaps a big keyword of this year, sovereignty, our own sovereignty, whatever of course this means to us personally. We need to have a lot of that because we do need to embody it and make very, very important choices through this year based on that. So welcome to your horoscope for the week of January the 2nd, 2023. And this is going to be the first part of the recording. And in the second part, I'm going to be speaking a little bit more about the major energies of 2023, a preparation, if you will, and also to include certain things that I might have missed on the video dedicated specially to examining the major energy shifts of 2023. I might link to that video in the description below. So let's begin the horoscope. We begin not just the week but also the year under quite a very powerful energy where on the 2nd Venus still holds a pretty tight conjunction with Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, of course. Now, we do feel this quite intensely in so very many ways. For some people, important, perhaps karmic events might have taken place in their lives very, very recently. So this Pluto and Venus conjunction acts as the intensity of the emotions, the intensity of processing this, because processing Mercury retrograde is also in the neighborhood. So there is a lot of intellectual, mental, processing energy, coping energy, improvising also mental energy, which we do need to put into play this week. But at the beginning, it is this conjunction of Venus and Pluto that will truly mark basically our emotional configuration. Now, of course, this can play out in much favorable ways as well. For example, this can represent a big attraction of any kind, including the, kinky kind, because simultaneously we do have all week, of course, until the 9th of January, Black Moon Lilith in energetic position in Cancer, and amongst a very strong emotional pull that all of us are basically subject to our own unique special ways, this also makes us very vulnerable to intense attractions, regardless of their nature. This can be any kind of attraction. So this can be expected that these very powerful attractions do play out in the lives of some people. And Venus can also represent desire in the sign of Capricorn, how to get it. Pluto, either the means, the opportunity, or the power. So you can imagine that if there is a strong desire there, and there is also a possibility to obtain it, for a lot of people this will represent a moment of action. But Pluto is also the shadow. So how will this transform, our Venusian matters for the shorter term future even? Because very soon Venus moves into Aquarius, this week of course, and that is this conjunction of Venus and Pluto manifested in a more futuristic Aquarius way. This is where whatever change it produced within us, it's also showing up in our social sphere, in our mental sphere. It did transform us. Now, there is also a very good side to this energy because this can be healing. This can be regenerative. This can be truly moving on, making the decision to truly, truly move on. Us feeling very, very intensely the need, the Mercury retrograde, the logic to it, the ration to it. We understand it very, very rationally and palpably why we need to move on. Pluto-Venus conjunction, after all, from whatever it is, a person, an emotion, a feeling, a hobby. I wanted to say hobby, but that can also be the case because hobbies do, cycle with one another. A hobby leaves us, but in a very dramatic way where another already took its place, so this inner shift happens. But it can be anything that basically has to leave us or has to be replaced, has to be transformed. And Capricorn is a very lucrative energy, a professional energy. So it is that much more likely to also play out professionally when we might be in the preparation, Mercury retrograde, to make big moves professionally at our jobs. But at the same time, with Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, sorting out anything that kind of disadvantages schedule wise, any Capricornian expressions with our job, with our everyday routines, with something that is an integral part of our lives. Again, the symbolism of Capricorn. So also, speaking about Mercury, we are under the influence of Mercury retrograde all throughout the week, and this is also a rather complicated and complex week because not only is Mercury retrograde ongoing in full swing in Capricorn, so that means quite practical, quite real, quite physical. No, it is important, quite important, at least in the now. It is very, very important because chances are all of us are in the progress, in the process, better said, of, accomplishing certain things for our immediate futures or resolving things from the past. So Mercury retrograde highlights this, but Mercury is the ruling planet of Gemini, where we have Mars retrograde. So it is extra complicated because Mars is action. In Gemini, that action can very well be speaking, sharing your truth, coming up with something, inventing something, creating something, information, knowledge, etc. Resolving one-on-one communications, discussions, negotiations, anything that has to do with that. And this can also be from the past, or this can also be us trying to get from A to another point, and it's so complicated, but we're not giving up because it is necessary. So Mars retrograde and Mercury retrograde simultaneously at the same time working, can truly make us feel that like life is forcing us to use our masteries almost in a forced way, almost in a rather extra hard difficulty setting way. And we might not understand how is this all that beneficial even for the future, but trust me or trust the universe that it really, really is, because there are moments when we need to embody, Capricorn, our maximum potential in the now. Why? Because that affects us in ways which we might not necessarily think of immediately. That changes our frequency. That changes how we present ourselves. When you are in basically mastery mode, whatever that is, even if you're a parent, bad parenting, if you're a cook, or, this includes anything that can be embodied. If you're in mastery mode, well, chances are you're gonna present yourself as a master, or your speech, or your way of expressing yourself through speech, through gesture, through whatever, is gonna be a little bit amped up. So that does things. That affects the unconscious, for example, of others. Job interviews will go differently, negotiations will go differently, and at the same time, you will process everything that is informational Mercury or created within you, coming your way from a much more mature perspective. And this will pay off handsomely because based and built on this energy, as we navigate towards the end of the week, we do have a full moon in the sign of Cancer. And one of the specifics of that energy, and I'll get to that later on, Mercury is conjunct the Sun. Now, this isn't rare because Mercury is always chasing the Sun on and off. But whenever they do meet, it is a moment of clarity, or it is a moment when the fires of creation, the Sun, light up, spark up, fuel up in the mind, so things happen. Neurons are going to be activated, and quite physically even, isn't thought the electrical impulse in the electricity basically in the brain. So that flow of electricity and photons and stuff like that is very, very mercurial, and it is more intense each and every time the Sun meets Mercury in the sky in a conjunction, regardless of where and how and in which basically conditions. And also, Mercury at the beginning of the week, the very... I'm so sorry, I still have this flu thing, so I'm gonna be coughing. And so at the beginning of the week, Mercury is at the infamous 20 to 23 degrees of the sign of Capricorn, where of course 12th of January 2020 the conjunction of Saturn and Pluto took place. So we are going to be reminded in many more than one ways what happened in our lives, what took place in our lives, what basically changed our lives around that time. Administratively, our customs, our everyday routines, our values. Venus is, let's not forget, Venus is also in the neighborhood. So values, of course, money management, and work, time, our time, what we value, what we are willing to sacrifice and what not. This is definitely going to be part of this week, at least as a thought, as a reminder, as a memento. But since Venus is also there, maybe financial reverberations come into your life from 2020, from that period, or it can also mean from the shorter term past, from a few months ago. So yeah, and Mercury retrograde, we are, as I said, anything but but in the specifics of Capricorn. So we truly need to get out there and do it, prepare ourselves to make a decision and choice, and not necessarily just to brainstorm and philosophize and listen to the heart. That is important. Venus, of course it's important, but with Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, facts and figures. Document ourselves, ask, for example, a specialist if we need to have the right information, especially if you're preparing yourself to make like a legal move, something official, something legally binding, something that is concrete in action. Yeah, you do need facts and figures and to know what you're doing. So that is highly encouraged. And if life with this Mercury and Mars retrograde simultaneously is inviting you to do some research, to be more patient and think things through more down to earth, more rationally, more Plutonian way, as in know thyself as well. Don't make promises to yourself that you kind of know that you're not gonna keep or you cannot keep, regardless of how big your ambitions are right now, Mars retrograde. So act in knowledge of everything, the self and the situation. And again, I must say, with the Pluto and Venus conjunction, the power of attraction and emotional intensity, whatever we lack, we're gonna feel the lack that much strongly, more powerfully, or whatever we are living that's so intense, it's gonna really suck us in. It's really gonna immerse us into it. And it can also be like with Pluto, something rather painful, a stark truth, my life just changed and I have to move on now. I don't even have a period to process all that much Mercury retrograde, processing along the way. This is why Mercury retrograde in Capricorn can feel a bit unlike the usual, I would like to say the natural Mercury retrogrades, because sometimes you're actually processing, redoing, rethinking, whatever, while multitasking or doing something else or exactly doing the core issue, but you need to kind of process as you go in the process, if that even makes sense. So it can have a tiny bit of a ruthless expression to it because it doesn't give you all that much comfort. But when you do something right under Capricornian energy, well, that stays with you for a long, long, long time in any way, shape, and form. Because, also Pluto, it's a permanent good if you're doing something good. Or if you're cutting out something, healing something, it's also permanent. So it's worth the effort. So moving on, another important energy shift this week is going to be Venus leaving the sign of Capricorn and entering into the sign of Aquarius. Now, before she leaves Capricorn, she's going to be in 29 energetic position. We are going to feel that also quite intensely because she's still conjunct Pluto. So this is around the the third and the fourth. But as Venus finally enters the sign of Aquarius, this is gonna come through as a sigh of relief in that sense because it activates our social sphere. It activates, attractions, Venus, values also Venus, um, things that usually come to us also Venus in the higher mind or in the shared mind, for example, internet, social sphere, friends, local community, and Venus, your individuality in Aquarius. It is highlighted, it is emphasized. So this does help a lot. This does help uh, escape the intensity of when she was conjunct Pluto. Even though as soon as she enters Aquarius, that can be also considered an outer sign conjunction, yet that's also Aquarian. So the Plutonian intensity in Capricorn, whatever it is that you're feeling so intensely, well, it enters the spacious sphere of the mind, which has no bounds, and it doesn't have to, be all that much controlling and physical. So that is like a sigh of relief. Of course, in the sign of Aquarius, it's futuristic. We might have to think about managing money for the short term future, managing resources, managing our own emotions, our feelings, because there is the now, of course, but with Venus and Aquarius, we're also thinking about, well, okay, but I have to be okay in a week's time. This is upcoming, that is coming, so I do need to be back in shape. I do need to get a grip on. So this is actually good. Now the not so favorable side to this, rebellious energy, unusual attractions, but also unusual desires from within us. Changing hair color, changing style, wardrobe. Now, permanent changes are not all that encouraged because Venus in Aquarius, today she loves it and it's the best idea ever. Tomorrow will seem a totally different way. The glyph of Aquarius, the duality. So, big aesthetic, cosmetic, or any kind of changes, even investments, are not encouraged or are encouraged with thought, with a lot of thought. So then we move towards this full moon in the sign of Cancer that we have either on the 6th or 7th of January, depending on where you are on the planet. And one of the specifics of this energy is that the Sun is conjunct Mercury, as it opposes the Moon in the sign of Cancer, but the Moon is also conjunct the asteroid Pallas Athena. So this is quite an interesting full moon because Pallas Athena is tactics. It is basically figuring stuff out, and with the specifics of the sign in Cancer, emotionally, putting the past into place within yourself, like truly making order within your memories, within your feelings, within what you allow to have power over you emotionally. And as I said, this can go back to the long term past, family, parents, local community, as anything that you lived and truly impacted you, your roots basically. So Pallas Athena putting order in there, as in, what do I mean? It is up to us to decide what has grip on us and what doesn't. Now maybe, for example, we might have had a certain kind of childhood, but we can actually choose that not to say anything relevant to our souls. As in, we might judge the world or whatever made our situation unfavorable. We have that option, and perhaps rightfully so, but we also have the option where I do not allow it to have power over me, so I choose to basically just close it, just to dissociate the impact it had on me. Why? Because now I have power. I have power over this, and this is what I choose to do it. So Pallas Athena opposing basically Mercury and the Sun is really, really good for this. And Capricorn, this does impact, because Mercury and the Sun in Capricorn, this does impact everything. The feeling of life, the modus vivendi, how we live through life, our everyday reactions to life, because chances are, if we did close a certain kind of past in the sense that we took away its power, there is only so much bad that our inner being is willing to see in everyday reality. And that means it gives us a lot of space for good, any kind of good vision. When I say good, what is good? What is beneficial to your being? What good means to you? What you're here to do? You will see in life, everyday life, much more that expression. If you free a lot of space in basically your own inner being. So this Cancer full moon, from a very personal, let's say psychological perspective, is really, really good for that. And also the Sun trines Uranus. And this is a really, really powerful energy that accomplishes basically. Uranus, well, in the sign of Taurus, in retrograde, it can also mean our very recent, because Uranus is recent energy, recent past basically, when we did think outside the box, took action outside our comfort zone, we did choose our own version of truth, our authenticity, our true soul felt values, all of these things. And now it reverberates in a very, very positive way onto our lives, Uranus and Sun trine. And this energy can also be considered quite fortunate. This energy can represent that whatever action we took to make changes in our basically Taurus, our long-term fixed value systems. The effort we put into there is going to be felt now in a positive way. And you might think, well, effort is Saturnian, isn't it? But not so long ago, Uranus and Saturn hold their square for quite a long time. So we had a lot of effort solicited from us by Saturn. So yes, this full moon can be a very important healing energy, because, as I said, Mercury opposes the moon as well. Mind, Mercury, and very down to earth in a very, very human kind of way to understand mind, where we know exactly what, let me use this figure of speech, what 3D reality is all about. So we stand from a position of mentally being grounded. We are aware of what and how things from a very 3D perspective look like, are like, and what we have, basically Mercury retrograde, what we have to work with mentally. But, from this place of grounding, it opposes the moon, and the moon is, needless to say, at home in the sign of Cancer. So this is actually the proper, astrologically speaking, the proper full moon, when basically the world of emotion, or if you look at the moon tarot card, the ocean, the water, the body of water is basically our feeling, but past, present, and future, and the moon basically, as a queen of the water, stands above it. It almost denotes an aura of royalty, mystical royalty. So a Cancer full moon is actually the proper, the most, how should I say, classical expression of a full moon. It has power. It has a lot of soul. It changes usually a lot of things, because a full moon is a culmination. It is, an ending or a revelation, or something that really, really matters pops up, and you work with that harvest in that sense. And Pallas Athena usually is a very, very beneficial energy, because in mythology she used to help almost every hero, or everyone who was some kind of difficult challenge in a difficult situation. So yeah, and moon, you know, the power, the full power of the soul, the full power of emotions in a almost timeless way. And the opposition with Mercury, the mind meets the soul, and together they reach a compromise. So exactly, something important happened. Now, of course, collectively this might be a different picture, because before this full moon we have the Venus and Pluto conjunction, money, banking, money, and Venus moving into Aquarius. What that means for the coming months. Venus conjunct Pluto, some bad news, as in no money, or blockages, or decrease of values, or whatever it is. And Aquarius, very, very quickly it affects us. So that is on the table. So you can imagine that a full moon after that is gonna stir the collective emotion, because that is Cancer, collectively speaking, the collective feeling, the collective emotion. So of course people are gonna feel a very intense emotion, maybe dissatisfaction, maybe, but they will also kind of prepare to take action. There will be petitions, there will be attempts to fix it, to resolve it, improvisation. So there's also going to be a lot of effort and energy invested into, fixing it, so to speak. And needless to say that all of this energy is under an energetic Lilith. So hormonally, we are really, really active. And that Lilith in Cancer can also represent very strong mood swings And it can also represent that basically we get triggered emotionally all that more quickly, intensely, and let's just say it can also represent our toxicity, even our soul level toxicity, everything that we simply cannot forgive. That can very well be an anoretic Lilith in the sign of Cancer. So this concludes this week's horoscope, the very first week of the year. And in the following, I would just like to mention the most important and bigger energies of the year 2023, because it already begun, because Jupiter was already in the sign of Aries, and yes, that represents the sovereignty, that represents when justice is not optional. Cry out for justice, or when basically justice, whatever it means to us personally, and from a very collective perspective, it is the individuals. Aries, the individuals, and where the individuals collectively aspire to go, that's where reality has to take us, because there is no other choice. What we desire collectively, that's the reality that we're gonna have. It's very logical and rational. So it is this Aries activation is very, very important. Now Jupiter will whiz through Aries very quickly, because because it enters Taurus on the 17th of May. So that's very, very fast moving energy. So you can imagine that this will reflect in reality. Anything that has to do with justice as well. Very quick action, very sudden changes, big eruptions, explosions of energy, of Aries, a direction where people went. As I said, suddenly. And why justice? Well, Libra, wherever, you know, whatever happens in the sign also affects the opposite sign. And then Jupiter will move into the sign of Taurus. Well, that changes the energy shift quite intensely, of course. But something is made real, something is made permanent, something is integrated, something is used. Because Taurus, that's what it does. It makes something permanent. It makes something long lasting. For example, it builds the house. Aries might have been your will to build a house, and of course the project and every initiation. Taurus is when the money is on the table already, and you're brick by brick. So whatever we fought for, and understand this collectively, until May 17th of May, we're gonna have, as in, okay, we're gonna be actually living it, working with it, using it one way or another. So, and also Jupiter in the sign of Taurus, it expands everything it touches. Taurus, money, economy, value, and Jupiter adds the refining touches to whatever the North Node did in Taurus in 2022 more than 2021, and then what Uranus is doing in Taurus, and all this Taurus activation of the past years are going to be basically just sorry, refined by Jupiter moving through the sign of Taurus, but that energy later on. The Aries expression is more important in the now, because that's very, very, very quick, very volatile, and very impacting. For example, on the 20th of April, we do have an energetic solar eclipse in Aries, 29 degree. And I do believe that it is conjunct Jupiter as well. A very wide conjunction, but it is somehow conjunct, or maybe I'm mistaken anyway. But 29 degree is a very, very powerful, intense karmic angle, usually the shadow side, and Aries is warrior energy. It is outlashing energy, as in it doesn't really think it lashes out. You know, it, for example, if I would have to compare Aries to a creature, I would use the praying mantis. 1 second and you're caught. That's it. It's like the ninja energy. The spur of the moment, it does it. And 29 is explosive. So there might be some kind of explosion in the world. Maybe an eruption, volcanic activity, nuclear fusion explosion. Like, I'm not, by no means am I trying to say nuke or anything like that. But a powerful Aries activation like this does remind me of the Fukushima disaster in Japan. That was activated by Uranus, but Aries is Aries. And Jupiter is expansion, so it's a big boom. So we'll see how that will play out, but whatever happens physically, Aries the individual, and fight for justice, and whatever the myriad of individuals need, desire, ask for, that's what they're gonna get. So that eclipse will be a big, big, big reality, almost like a moving in a way in a different karmic dimension, because it resets, let's say, all of our immediate struggles and whatever we had in our lives until that moment, and it gives the essence of what we're fighting for, and it determines us to all of, and this is where all of collectively humankind, I'm not referring to you and me as per persona, we will be put in the face of go and do it, of, or pushed to do something, or to enact something, or to live something, because, whatever it is that we desire, we have to get at that moment. So that will be a very, very powerful eclipse. So moving on, another very important energy is Black Moon Lilith is entering into the sign of Leo on the 9th of January. On first hand, Black Moon Lilith is instinctual, raw, wild energy that is all-consuming. It serves the self, basically. And Leo, it can be quite self-centered. So this energy does usually birth a lot of narcissistic expressions out there. But the good side of this energy, this is where it can truly fight for the self, for a cause, for everything that it loves. It is also a wild creational energy, when if you're like an artist or anything creative, getting into that creational insanity guarantees something big. But the other side of this energy, which is not so favorable, it can be very, very, very fanatical, a little bit. But anyway, more about that in next week's horoscope, because that's when it's taking place. Then on the 22nd of January, Uranus changes directions. It goes direct. We will feel that very intensely. It activates Aquarius, Saturn's in it. So yeah, Saturn structures, law, enforcement of the law, the internet technology, and the human collective, rights, liberties, etc., humanitarianism. So speaking about Saturn, on the 7th of March, it leaves the sign of Aquarius and it enters Pisces. Now this starts Saturn's transit in the sign of Pisces, and I'm not going to be getting into the details, but I'd rather explain what this energy looks like, alchemically speaking, because it is a very strong alchemical energy immediately, because Saturn will conjunct the fixed star of Fomalhaut, which is the star of alchemy. So all of us are going to be alchemizing quite a lot. Saturn is the crystallizing energy. Pisces is the dream. So in alchemy, Jupiter and Neptune cannot really do all that much without Saturn, because it is Saturn which makes it real, allows it to become real. In the sign of Pisces, it's even more surreal than we can think, because we need to accept something and allow something, the existence or whatever of something on a soul level, in order for that to start becoming real for us. So this Pisces can also represent our connection to the infinity of time, all of our soul matrix. And Saturn, well, on one hand, it kind of reminds us of our past existences. So these upcoming 3 years are going to be quite intense when you meet certain people and you feel like you've known them all your lives. These kind of connections come together because Saturn makes it complete. Here it is. You will meet in this life and the meeting takes place finally. Big realizations, soul level realizations that truly change someone in a most profound sense, where life was a certain way after, I don't know, some kind of big experience in life, and after that experience, basically it's almost like you stepped into a new dimension. You are different. Life, existence, and reality is different. So we can expect those kind of big moments. Also, Saturn represents the karmic judge, integrity, morality. We need to embody that which we believe in. Pisces, the dream of it. So many of us are going to be inclined to truly embody the better version of ourselves, but from a spiritual perspective. This will mean that some of us will definitely purge out certain unhealthy expressions of the spirit from our lives. Now, let me give you a very easy example of it. For example, porn. How dangerous it is, well, depends really on the person. But no matter how you look at it, it is an expression of a spirit. It is very spirit. Very much spirit. Would you want to block it out from your life? You can imagine that some other energy will take its place. But Saturn being in the sign of Pisces, you are that much more, I don't want to say rewarded, although I have to, for your choice, for your spiritually elevated, for your morality in front of the spirit. Because why? This isn't like a childish reward. The universe, the divine, and your own soul, Pisces, will see the maturity of your gesture as a being, not as a human, as a being, because you will see the need of sanctity even for the sexual expression. Block out something that goes against the sanctity, that means an upgrade of that area of your life, basically. That, for example, sexual activities will never ever be the same to you as they once were. This is just an example, but this can be a powerful psychological healing, powerful spiritual healing, but one which will take a lot of effort, a lot of patience, and to truly show yourself for who it is that you are before whatever the divine means to you, but more importantly, the own judge from within you. Because many times the way our lives are nothing, and I literally seriously mean it, nothing more than our own judgment. And sometimes we think that, can I possibly will this to be this way, in a twisted, unconscious way? And the more we analyze and think about it, we come to the conclusion that yes, our troubles, our weaknesses, are usually an act of protest against the world, against society, against the parent. But on a soul level, on a spiritual level, How can one hurt a parent's soul? How can a soul hurt a parent's soul more? By nullifying and disgracing the parents' work of creation, their own lives. As in the child ruining unconsciously their own lives, because who said that the soul is sacred? No, the soul is not sacred at all. It is sulfur in a alchemical. It is what we make, how we burn it. What we put into the fire is what the flames and the heat and the smoke and everything else is going to be. What we project. We are responsible what we put into the soul. The spirit is a totally different, okay, that is way more elevated. And but who said that someone's soul cannot be angry, misguided, miss whatever, just plain bad? So yes, there can be things where a being, an incarnated being, just mocks their own existence and everything in a sign of divine rebellion. One which is silly, stupid, and that soul will need a lot of recuperation work later on, but it is what it is. Sometimes the problem comes spiritually. And usually the people who do suffer out of a spiritual cause are very deep within themselves, are there a little bit aware that what they're doing. So how can you stop them? But Saturn in Pisces is exactly this energy. When we know that this is the case, when we know that whatever it is that we have in our lives, it's actually us and our own judgment or our own creation. And that is also where we need to go to change things. And Saturn is the cleanup. Saturn is, sorry, the discipline, the karmic discipline. This is when collectively it also upgrades spiritually the world of arts, the world of, basically the spirit made manifest. And what I say upgrade, it's not something all that fantastic, it's a cleanup. As in, the world of arts, that which is truly already non-artistic but is considered as art, will die under this energy. Because Saturn, it cannot allow the existence of that abomination. For example, if you glue a banana to a canvas, under very many energies, that's art and it sells and $1,000,000, whatever. But when Saturn is in the very sign which governs what spirit has to be, well, it will say, well, not this time. Bye-bye. Try again. Try in the next era. Wait like 100 years and try again with the banana stuff or the fruit, and it will do the same with spirituality. That spirituality which is way too self-fueled, and whatever Saturn is notorious in Pisces for is the divine, the great universal architecture. But you make the mistake to think that it's a system and it works like a computer, and it's all not that personal. I'm just one of the many and I hide within the color. No. It will be so deeply personal that your universe will almost have a personality to it, and that personality will be like your personality. That will be when Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, when literally what you do unto others, you do unto the universe, so you do unto yourself. The vicious triangle. But it's up to you. The word vicious could be replaced by eternal bliss. Those people who are deeply, deeply Piscean, and not Pisces sun sign, those who are truly ethereal, those who are a tiny bit not of this world, under the sign of Saturn, under Saturn in Pisces, you can imagine that reality will have to honor them, respect them, crystallize them. How do you make someone who is already kind of ethereal stay with us for many more years? Force them to experience a very earthly kind of satisfaction, happiness, illusion made real, immersing into matter, spirit cocktail, whatever that means to certain people. But for others, this means karmic obligations need to be repaid. For example, if you have an ill parent staying by their side, ill child staying by their side, someone has problems in their life, someone's going through hardship, someone, of course, karmically linked to you, stand by their side, help them, offer help. Someone is homeless, invite them into your house. Be there, be there. Because usually when this is the case, you will know that life, the divine, your own spirit, whatever, someone was there for you when you were at your worst, when you were down, and then there are moments when karma life invites you to be that person, to give the shoulder to others. And of course, choosing even if it's not easy, because Saturn in Pisces also means taking on the pain of others to help them cope, carrying their cross with them, offering truly the shoulder. But all these actions under Saturn in Pisces, well, they are kind of crystallized in the Book of Fate itself, the divine, and the whole Akasha, everything in existence will remember what you have done. And to you, this might be laughable. Why would the universe care what I do to my family member, to my mom, my dad, my dog even, I don't know. It does, because that's your portfolio, that's your job profile, that's your, like your file, really. This person, this soul was capable of this, so it's very, 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 very important. Of course, the most beautiful, the most meant to last for a long time, pieces of art, music, fantasy, anything like that, and even spiritual knowledge, crystallized, written, or whatever channel, are gonna be taking birth in these next 3 years. And also, Saturn in Pisces, spirituality is not just some thought, just some philosophy. It has to be lived, embodied. This is where you are basically your spirituality. And Saturn, you do something with it. It matters very, 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 very much. And then, of course, Pluto moving into Aquarius on the 24th of March. It activates 0 degrees of Aquarius, where the 2020's meeting of Jupiter and Saturn, the Great Conjunction, took place. The paradigm shift. Now, immediately, Aquarius is either in a very physical way the internet and everything that has to do with the internet, and by now our existence kind of depends on it, if you're truly honest. Or it means humanity's even more invisible than the internet collective consciousness, which is an internet. Let me just give you an example. Tarot, empaths, psychics, when they discover the past, what happened, how, they just access the information base. And of course, everyone will access the same information. It's not really a miracle that a psychic in, I don't know, Canada and one in Australia will get the same facts, information, because it's always been there. But Pluto activating that, all of us are going to be sucked into it immediately. Our consciousness itself is going to immerse into a kind of unity. Now, what this means individually is different. What is that for you? Is it your group of friends that has been transformed profoundly? Is it a collective? Is it a circle? Is it something that you immerse into? Is it a project? Is it a futuristic vision? Is it something that about the future that you want to live? Anyway, we are gonna feel that we're not alone in whatever it is that we're doing, that we're aspiring, that we are even co-creating. Like it or not, there are gonna be the influence of others. None of us can deny that we are part of, even invisibly, of a collective. This is where even hermits, even any kind of soul who is here and doing something in the human world is going to be feeling this connection their own unique way. As I said, with your more subtle senses, or quite physically, where you'll be busy. Your social life will take over everything, basically, for a short period, preparing you, of course, and all of us for 2024, when Pluto moves into Aquarius permanently. Because it will leave Aquarius on the... Let me just check my notes. Oh... June the 11th, it will re-enter the sign of, June, the sign of Capricorn. So that is when it will truly mean business on a 3D level, deconstruction of the old order, everything in the world that still needs to be demolished and rebuilt, or called to be rebuilt. And that will give us a moment of respite from all that Aquarian activation. But reality itself and what the paradigm that we are living in, what means to us, will change forever there and then. And I do believe that, of course, there will be much more about Pluto, about all of this, from me and every other astrologer as we get nearer to the moment. So I would like to leave you at this. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, again, wishing everyone a very happy new year. Until next time, bye for now.